Good evening. Welcome to this month's Town Administrators Report. I'm David Watts Jr., and with me is our Town Administrator, Steve Maio. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you, David.
Merry Christmas
Merry Christmas
happy holidays.
Happy
and
New Year, and here we are at the tail end of December.
Yep. The end of our 16th season.
Yes.
Yeah, pretty cool. And as we've done in past years, this is our looking back at the year, in this case 2024, and it's been a busy and in a lot of ways momentous year.
Yeah, I was thinking as I was kind of thinking about what had transpired this year. Every year has its own kind of defining moments or its own theme, and this year seems to be a theme of building on and moving on for some people and kind of remembering the past. And it was a year that was packed. Let's put it that way.
It was,
yeah.
and a lot of activities.
Yeah.
And one of the more recent activities was the dedication of the AmeriCol Division flag at the Civic Center.
Right. We just this month, just you and I were just there not too long ago.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was quite a nice addition to the front lobby.
Yeah, it was really nice, and those photos and the flag was actually gifted by the AmeriCal Division some time ago, and I think it ended up in a closet over there, and in some cleaning out and stuff, Dan McGrath found it and brought it to me, and I said, "This is really cool stuff." So we put the pictures up, and I think that going forward, I hope that we'll see maybe some more modern ones from other deployments in the area, and then we had the flag, boxed nicely. Really is an interesting and a pretty cool event, and there was discussion about whether to leave it in the lobby or to put it in the Heritage Room there, and we opted for, and I completely support this, to put it in the lobbies because there's a lot of young people that go back and forth through that lobby, whether it's and older people, and whether it's basketball or an event there in the drill room, pickleball.
Yep.
And you can have hundreds of people or meetings with, upstairs. Yep. Hundreds of people that are going to see that and see the flag and see some of the deployments that came out of there. And I think we'll get the most people will be affected by it. So I'm very happy with where it is. It came out great. And I hope that people take a look at it and kind of remember what that building was about.
And of course, it's one of only two divisions in the history of the Army that's carried a name instead of a number.
Yeah.
And AmeriCol meaning America and New Caledonia, which is where the division was at the beginning of World War II.
Exactly, and I found it interesting that the Brigadier General that spoke on the event said that General Schwarzkopf wore that patch on his sleeve. And I did not know that, so I found that very, very interesting. So quite a history there.
And talking about the past, we were also talking the other day about, this was the 50th anniversary this past spring of a sad event, and that was the Ames-Rexall block fire in 1974 in the spring.
Yeah, and I think not too many people would remember that, David.
No, and these are some of the photos I took at the fire that night. I've forgotten just how many communities responded, but this is where the is it Rockland Trust?
Rockland Trust Bank
is located today on the corner of Albion and Main Street. That building took the place of basically these three shops. Ames Rexall and Florence's, and then a men's shop next door to that.
And of course, Florence's went down the street.
Yes.
On,
and it's still there. Yeah. But this was one of a string of fires at that time. Was this one by the arsonist? Do you remember?
I don't recall
that. I don't recall either. I was trying to think.
So. I would think so.
Yeah. Because I know eventually he was arrested in the rebuilt Rexall.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I would think that it was,
But this is in the last 50 years we've seen a lot of fires in Wakefield, and then this is the day after.
The day after, quite an event and quite a tragic event.
Very much so. Very much so. Because there was the loss of one firefighter,
right,
which is is a significant loss in that his son is now the chief.
Exactly. Yeah, Mike Sullivan's dad
Yeah.
passed away in that fire.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
very tragic. And that was a nice event. I'm not going to say celebration, remembrance
Yeah.
of that, of the 50-year remembrance. And it was very moving to see a lot of the townspeople there, certainly the fire department, a lot of retired firefighters that
Mm-hmm.
had served with Mr. Sullivan. So it was a really it was very moving event. Not one of those things that had a great splash. It didn't close down streets all over town, but it made its point. So it was very
Absolutely.
very nice to
Absolutely.
remembered quite well.
Absolutely. Let's move on to some of the high points of this year, this past year, that we're now wrapping up. 2 town meetings. We had annual town meeting in May and then the regular town meeting in November. Both were marked by very eager debates about 40A, you know, which we've talked about more than once in the last couple of years. And finally, the town accepted a 40A plan.
Right.
You know, in regular town meeting.
Interesting. The annual town meeting in spring of the year, and then the easy way to remember it, people at home, is annual is the earlier one, and the regular is the one later in the year, and just go alphabetically. then you remember it. And that's how I remember it. That's my mnemonic device of remembering it. You know, we had 23 articles in the spring town meeting, which I think is pretty average.
Yeah.
Actually. Of course, there was the budget article, a lot of budget articles, budget events there. We also had an article on flags.
Yep.
And we had an article on marijuana and whether there would be a marijuana dispensary in Wakefield. That also did not pass, but and I think it didn't pass because it probably didn't have enough vetting through the health department, health, and the Board of Health and things like that.
Well, that was one of the questions that was brought up at the time.
Right.
What is their position on it?
Right. So I think that you're going to, I think a little birdie is telling me that may come back again in spring of 2025 after being fully more vetted. And of course, the 40A, the MBTA zoning and what have you. So that was a long, multiple evening town meeting, as I recall. And yes, in a number of these items, some very spirited discussions, to put it mildly. And that's what town meeting is about.
And for the most part, respectful.
I would say that, you know, when I talk to my colleagues from other communities that have town meetings, and ours is open, which means any registered voter can participate and vote.
Right.
And non-registered voters can also participate with the vote of the body. And I hope we never lose this, you know, Wakefield is pretty respectful for the most part. And it seems to me that it's always been that way. Of course, there's a couple of things every year that you know, not every year, but occasionally that pop up, and maybe people need a little bit of calming. But there hasn't been the vitriol that I've seen or heard about in other communities. So I'm very pleased about that.
Well, and 48 could have really brought that out, too.
Yeah.
It's a very, very divisive article in a lot of communities.
It's very divisive, and for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah.
You know, I think that, you know, certainly, you know, we, and I include myself in that we don't like being told by the state what to do. You know, I think we believe, and I include myself in that we know best for our community.
Yes.
And at the same token, though, there are times that we need to follow the law of the state. And I think that in the regular town meeting in the fall, in the 40A item, I think that I think the subcommittee did a fabulous job, had many open forums, got a lot of input from the public. We were able to craft a bylaw in an area that pretty much, as I was said, gave us a lot of credit for decisions we had already made,
Mm-hmm.
which the bylaw on the law, state law in itself wasn't going to do. But it was still very hotly debated. Sitting there in November of that town meeting, and when the meeting started, I certainly had no idea at that point which way it was going to go.
Right.
Based on looking at the crowd. But we had 500 people on a Saturday morning to vote for it. That's pretty good.
We came very
representation.
close twice to filling the auditorium
Yeah.
and having to go into overflow.
Which is unusual for any events, with the exception of override or debt exclusion events,
Yep.
which seems to bring out a lot of people. And we filled the high school field house for the high school, and we certainly
And had outdoor at the same
and
time.
had outdoor at the same time. And I
Yep.
think we certainly had multiple locations when the Galvin was being done too, voted on at the old Galvin.
Right.
So so having a lot of people there for the and I would say respectful. People had their passion, and that's great. But I was very pleased to see that it was it was a respectful day, and was handled really quite quickly that morning. It wasn't
The second time around,
Yeah.
The first time was very slow, but the second time around in the regular town meeting moved fairly quickly.
Yeah.
It was long, but it wasn't overly long.
faster than I thought.
Yeah. The other thing that of course is a highlight of this year is multiple public building projects, if I can put it that way. We have the Voke School up the street
Right.
being built. That's been topped off.
Yep. A little bit ahead of the schedule of the Wakefield Memorial High School.
And the Wakefield High School next door to us is approaching that point, which is amazing how fast that went up,
Yeah.
because 2 months ago there were only a few girders up at the far
I
end.
know.
And
This construction crew is going great guns.
it absolutely is. But then another outcome of the regular town meeting was work is going to be proceeding, I assume, in the spring on the middle school to add solar panels
Yeah,
to the roof.
I actually think that's going to start very quickly.
do?
Weather permitting, it's going to start quicker. The hope there is that that the solar arrays on the roof, which was approved at town meeting in November, will be up and running and functioning by the end of June of 2025 of next year, which is only a few weeks away. So that, and part of that is when the Galvin was built, it was built solar ready.
Yep.
So there was the ability to
So,
run conduits through the roof.
Literally, it's almost plug and play.
It's almost plug and play. A little
Yeah.
bit more than that, but
Yeah.
yes, almost that. And where that is, powering a lot of that school's energy needs on the rays of the sun will probably save on the electric bill for the Galvin School. Probably save around $100,000 a year, and that's a great boon for the
Right.
for the taxpayers and for the school department. And as I'm putting together the budget for next fiscal year, that money can't come quick enough. Every year's a tough year.
But also at the same time, it's a testament to the municipal light department's whole solarization project that
Yes.
they've been touting through town for a number of years now. Their building is solar ready. The two schools are going to be solar ready,
Right.
and the middle school.
And actually, the high school will be built, part of the building project will be solar. It'll be built that way
Right.
when it takes over.
Right.
And the energy park across the street will be back up. I mean, this is really, really best practices going forward as we go forward
And
here.
Wakefield is really far ahead of a lot of other communities in the area in this
Oh,
respect.
I agree. And the vocational school will also be built solar.
Right.
So that's a
Right.
really a great job by the
And that will be tied to the energy park as well.
Great job by Wakefield Gas and Light, and what a wonderful partnership. It is between that separate entity, which is also owned by the town's people, and the if you want to look at, that as a corporation, and Wakefield, the town of Wakefield, as a corporation owned by the townspeople.
Yep.
What a great synergy between these two corporations owned by the same people.
Sure, sure. And miles ahead of the big commercial companies.
Yeah, I think so. I know so.
There were two significant retirements this year.
Yeah.
Jim McBain retired from the Zoning Board of Appeals,
Yes.
and Jane Good retired from the Housing Authority.
Yeah.
And they've been long time.
Long time. We'll start with Jim. You mentioned him first.
Yep.
Jim was the architect serving on the zoning board.
Yep.
And really, what a great benefit it was to have him on that board, because we had our own expert that understood architecture, that had a great flair for design, and I think you see a lot of the projects that were approved under Jim's watch. You can see them down North Ave. I think those are really nice looking buildings. He did a great job working with the rest of the board and with the developers. And I think they got to know when they came in, the architects in the area representing the building owners,
Yep.
kind of what was going to fly in Wakefield and what wasn't.
Sure.
So a lot of that was almost baked in. They didn't have to spend a lot of time doing that stuff. Great guy. He was also very instrumental on his own time in the planning of the rebuilding of the First Baptist Church, which a lot of people don't know. And he is still, because I kind of see him because that's right across from Town Hall, still coming in, making sure that there's always these punch list items that are persnickety, and he's still coming back,
Sure.
to make sure that they're all done. And,
Sure.
I enjoyed interacting with him as he served in this capacity. And even though every now and then, when I'd asked to see him about certain projects, and he would tell me, I feel like I'm coming to the principal's office when I come to see you. I said, well, that's apropos because this building was a school.
Right.
So
Right.
it makes sense.
Absolutely.
And, Jane Good, who doesn't love Jane Good in this town? And
Well, and a lot of people of a certain age still remember her husband, Jim.
oh, I do
Who
too.
was-
I remember him
Who
greatly.
was a huge asset to the town
Oh,
for many, many years.
And both of them are wonderful people. I attended Jim McBain's little retirement soiree.
Yep.
And was thrilled to also, my wife and I attended Jane's little retirement. I mean, she gave a lot of time of herself in many different endeavors, and I think for the last maybe 10 plus years was on the Housing Authority, and really, her main goal there was to make sure that, as many people that she could, got affordable housing in Wakefield. And, I think, Jane went to, years ago, maternity room nurse at Melrose Wakefield Hospital, delivered a lot of kids in town. A lot of people my age were delivered by Jane Good, and now maybe helping them or their family, getting into housing, affordable housing. So talk about coming full circle.
Sure.
But just a wonderful, wonderful woman who I got to know quite well, serving with her husband, Jim, on the board. And then, Jim was part of the board that appointed me town administrator. So I really have a great feeling for the whole Good family. Just fabulous people.
But they're good examples also of the volunteerism
Yes.
that makes a town like Wakefield work.
Absolutely.
And hopefully, in younger generations, we'll see some of those come in and be the next
Yes.
Jane Goods
Yeah.
and Jim McBain's.
Yeah, we need that. We need we need people to get involved, and it is more challenging today.
Yep.
I get it with social media and everybody questioning every decision you make, even though they don't necessarily have any of the backup information.
Right.
And there was this platform out there where years ago maybe someone would pick up the phone and say, "Hey, why did you vote this certain way?" And you
Yep.
could explain yourself. Today it's very, in often cases, a little too accusatory up front, which is unfortunate. And it is
Without any
taking
backing
its toll.
information.
It
yeah.
is taking its toll
Yeah.
on people volunteering. So
Absolutely.
I hope that ends, and people, because volunteers are what make the community, really.
Another controversial topic, or at least it started out as controversial, it may still be with some people, but at least we've now seen the reality, is the addition of bike lanes, particularly along North Avenue, which I think they did a pretty good job on that.
Yeah, I mean, the bike lanes went through a lot of discussion about, how they were going to be set up. Um, started with the widening of the sidewalk. Um, then a dedicated, bike lane going north, I guess, going north, and a kind of a hatched area, a buffer zone, and I think that it's change, and change is hard, obviously, and I think that and then there were the flex posts, which probably was the most controversial part of the whole decision.
Which are gone now for the winter.
Which are gone now for the winter.
Yep.
The flex posts were not recommended by the Town Engineering Department, Department of Public Works Administration on this. However, there was questions about safety and what have you. So they were, the Town Council did vote to have them there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that for a couple of weeks, or the 2-3 weeks that they were up, it did give the community a chance to see them. You certainly heard opinions on both sides. It's something that the town council will probably take up in the spring.
Yep.
And kind of hear, do we have some evidence from, police and fire?
Yep.
And how it affected their operations. Did it affect their operations? So we had a short sample. Maybe it wasn't long enough. We don't know. But when the snow flies, you couldn't have them anyway.
Right.
Anything plowable and
Well, like the humps out
Right.
on Farm Street
Yeah.
that are gone now for the
Right.
winter.
yeah, they were temporary in their own right. But again, once the snow flies, and hey, it's New England, we don't know.
Right.
I mean, as of Monday, the weather report on my phone was calling for 2 to 3 inches of snow, possibly Friday night. That kind of changes back and forth, but that's certainly plowable snow, so you can't be plowing on these items is all.
Right.
DPW director already assured me that all we're going to get is maybe a dusting Christmas Eve, and I like that very much. So we'll see.
Just the appearance
Just
of a
the
white
appearance
Christmas.
of a white
and then-
Christmas. Only on
Yeah.
the lawns.
Yeah.
Right? Nothing on the roads.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
But it is, the multimodal transportation is a hot topic in every community, that has these walkable, bikeable areas. So
Right.
it is a subject that is not going to go away, and is something that I think we're all going to continue to, try to, refine it and what have you as we go forward.
Sure.
So, with safety being the number one concern
Sure.
for all, whether they're in a car or on foot or on a bike.
Always important,
Yes.
especially around the lake, which is so popular for
Yeah.
recreation and just
So many people.
relaxation. Yeah.
So many people
Yeah,
from everywhere.
absolutely. Food pantry annex.
Yeah. So, the food pantry reached out to the town council and really they basically are, believe it or not, they were not only kind of running out of room in their really, it's almost like a store that they have in the basement of that AmeriCal Civic Center that we started off with.
Right.
But it's also sometimes difficult to get food items in and out because you've got to go in and down the corridor, and it's a little bit more of a process than having a loading dock
Well,
Yeah.
especially when the Boys and Girls Club is active.
in session.
Yeah.
So they did talk about putting an annex, which is really a climate-controlled, almost a trailer in the back
Yep.
of the parking lot there. It would help in some of their outreach programs. It would certainly help them in storing more food. So the town council, I'm thrilled, utilize some of the ARPA funds for that. What a great use. And it makes it very easy for the food pantry to help its clientele. And, not too many years ago, I think there were 200 families
Yep.
in Wakefield that was taking advantage of this. That number is up to about 800 now. So there are many people in town with food insecurity,
Right.
and anything that we can do as a community to help them is really so important and goes such a long way. And I think that anybody listening, it's great to do food drives and drop off cans and boxes of dry goods and what have you. But I will say that the food pantry can turn every dollar
Mm-hmm.
cash that is donated to them into $4 at the local Boston Food Bank. So that is really the best way to stretch their money. Not that, hey, if you have things and you want to drop it off, that's great too.
Right.
But that is the actual cash is some
Right.
of the most helpful.
Going off our topics list that we've been using to do this show, one thing when you brought up the food annex that I think we ought to mention, 2023 summer, there were a couple of pop-up
Yeah.
shops next to the former Blanchard's.
Exactly.
Which is now gone.
Right.
And one of those was a unique sort of coffee and slush operation.
Yeah.
With the bread shop gone
Yes.
to Melrose, sadly, they have now moved in there and they'll be opening after the holidays?
The Inspire Cafe, I mean, they look like they're close. I would love it if they'd get there before the holidays, but I do think it's going to be after. And this is really the same group of young people who ran the slush and the coffee there, did a fabulous job. Great, and they will remember you when you come. They will remember you.
Mhm.
It's really
And I think they called that Inspire Cafe
Inspire
too
Cafe
at the time.
as well. So this is going to be a great boon to the downtown.
Yep.
It kind of runs out of this, I think it was called Betty and Bo's in Melrose.
Yep.
And I think that Betty and Bo's, their business model was more of it was a franchise, and it
Right.
was, about, making numbers and making profits and things
Right.
like that.
Right.
And I think that this will be, this isn't that.
Right.
This is about, of course, they want to make a profit, but not the same way like we think of corporate
This is about
America.
opportunities to people who don't usually get opportunities.
And I'm looking forward to it. And if you look on their signage, there is you can become a member of a club, and I
Yep.
kind of forget the cost it is, but it's almost like, something like $25, and you get a cup of coffee every day
Yep. Yep.
for a month.
Yep.
I mean, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh yeah.
so I will look forward to it, and I think they're getting very, very close. And I think if it's not December, I hope it's January.
Early January.
January, yeah.
Yeah.
But it is. It really is. Probably should have been on my quick list that I sent you. So really an exciting thing.
And it adds to the downtown,
Yeah.
where we still have, unfortunately, some empty
Not that many.
storefronts.
Getting
But
better.
yeah, yeah. So, okay. Let's see. Housing trust.
Yeah, one thing, another accomplishment of this current year in the town council in particular was the establishment of an affordable housing trust.
Mm-hmm.
And town of Wakefield does have some money that's been designated through the sale of affordable housing units that did not go to another affordable applicant
Right.
for whatever reason.
Right.
Hasn't happened in a long time. But that money has stayed in that account where it should, according to state law. And we also, town council also put some ARPA money in there to help people get started on their first time home in Wakefield, whether it's renting or buying, because it's very difficult.
Right.
Even renting your first apartment, it's first month's, last month's, security deposit maybe, utility deposit.
And it's not cheap these
And it's not
days.
cheap. Yeah. So the Affordable Housing Trust in itself, in that document, really is a mechanism by which Wakefield can effectively invest in housing without going through town meeting every time.
Yep.
Although town meeting did approve the housing trust, I believe in that spring town meeting of 23, or maybe we did it in the fall of 22. So that is really something that's new. It's going to help us with the housing production plan. We are very close to having, we've talked about this a lot, 10% affordable housing, according to the state. It's not always affordable, but it's affordable, according to the state. And this is another mechanism of helping it. So we started out recently with a WRAP program, Wakefield Rental Assistance Program, and they just started this in the last month or so through the Housing Trust. And it seems like we have 5, 6, 7. Every day I'm hearing about another entity coming in.
Yeah.
And it is really so fulfilling because there are some people that would not be able to move to our community, even in a rental sense, if they didn't have this assistance. And
Right.
one woman couldn't believe this, was in tears that this was available, and was going to just got them over the edge to help doing that. So something that makes you feel good, particularly in this season of giving, that is another success.
I think we'll close on that.
Nothing better.
It's been an interesting year, and
busy.
and a busy year, and next year, 2025, is already shaping up to be really busy, and we'll get a chance to talk about some of the things coming up then.
Yes, we will.
But in the meantime, I want to wish everyone Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, happy whatever your holiday is, and especially a happy and prosperous new year. Thank you for joining us.
Absolutely.
We'll see
Thank
you
you.
next year.
Thank you.